come back, I'm going to tell you about the occupational therapist. The hospital I was in was a teaching hospital, so she wasn't quite a full-fledged occupational therapist yet. So the first day I see her, she takes me down to this room where she wants me to wheel the wheelchair by myself with my hands all the way down this long hall, around the corner and up there. I'm thinking, oh my God, by the time I got there, I was exhausted. And she takes me to the room. It has these little clippy things, and each one has, is harder and harder. The tension is harder and harder. So, and my hands and stuff are weak, and they're still not back to where they used to be. So she's giving me an example of these different ones, and she picks up the one that's the hardest, and she goes to open, and it goes flying across the room. I bet she was 100 pounds soaking wet. It was hilarious. So, I'm doing these things, and she would, ask me weird questions like, do you have a cat? And I'm like, no. And my cat had sadly passed away a couple months before that. But, so one day she takes me down, and we're in this room that's like a kitchen. And she asked me about cooking, and I said to her, that I don't cook. I was disabled before this happened. I was married to a monster, a true monster, and he, one time, he damaged my spine in 2 places. I've had surgeries, and I was left with nerve damage and stuff like that, but that's another story. And so, I told her that my fiance, did all that stuff. And she's like, what about dishes? I'm like, if I don't cook, I don't do dishes, And so, every once in a while I'd stand up in the kitchen for a few minutes, do this, sit back down, do this, because I love to cook. It's one of my favorite things to do. So anyway, she's like, well, let's just say, for instance, and I'm like, okay, we're going to make Jell-O, right? Well, apparently she'd already made Jell-O with somebody else. But when she put this bowl of Jell-O, I guess, with the other person in the refrigerator, it hit against the door. So when she opened the door, there's Jell-O stuck to the inside of the refrigerator door, spilled all over this bowl. It's just a mess. So basically, I spent about 20 minutes watching her clean the refrigerator and do all the dishes. And I thought, oh, it's just like at home, but if I was watching TV, it'd be better. So anyway, so one day she decides we're going to work on my arm strength, which I don't know why, because I did that with physical therapy. I had a specific physical therapist that I worked with on my arms and one with on my legs. So I don't know why. So she takes me down and she gets me into this chair, and it's one of those bars you pull down. And she said, we're not going to put any weights on. I said, well, how much, does it weigh without weights? She said, oh, probably just 2-3 pounds. I'm like, okay. And she looks and she's like, oh, it's 9 pounds. I was like, I'm not allowed to lift over 5. And she's like, oh, okay. And I couldn't get out of the chair. The chair had no arms. It sat lower. And I had yet to build up the strength to be able to do that, And so she's trying to get me about, like I said, 100 pounds soaking wet. She'd go, try to lift me up, and then she'd stop and she'd take a couple of deep breaths and walk around in a circle and come back and, right? In the meantime, in the same room, there's this lady sitting at this desk. And she's some kind of therapist too, I'm sure. And she's sort of trying not to watch everything that's going on, right? And I'm trying not to crack up laughing at this chick, right? So, she does a couple of times, trying to get me out of the chair. So I said to her, I said, why don't you ask that lady to help? And so she goes to the lady and she said to her, would you mind calling down for some help? I'm having difficult. She's the one who put me in the chair, right? So anyway, so the lady calls down. She comes over a few more times and says, trying to get me out of the chair. Like one of these times it was going to work. I was going to float up out of the chair, right? So in the meantime, we're waiting. And I said to her, ask her if she could help. So she finally goes over and says to the lady, because I'm having visions of being in this chair for the rest of my life, right? Could you help us? Blah, 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 blah. And the lady's like, half-hearted, right? I'm like, you're a real you know what, right? So she's half-hearted, and I know I can't help. But I'm like, you know, whatever. So finally one of my nurses come down and she calls in for another nurse and they get me out of the chair. So the next day, I have my physical therapy with my legs first. And he comes in and he said, "Oh my gosh, what's going on?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, you can't get up, you can't stand up anymore." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." He said, "Yesterday what happened? You got yourself stuck in a chair, you couldn't get up or whatever." And I was like, "Hold on, let me tell you what happened." Because she even went to the extreme of saying, a chair that's less than this many inches I can't get out of, and I need, this and that, whatever. And so he brings in a chair, and it has arms on it. And yes, I was able to get up, and I told him that. I said, it has to have arms for me to be able to push myself up with. And like I said, I don't have the strength to pull myself up yet. And so yeah, and guess what? Never saw her ever again. Never. I mean, I don't know what happened. I honestly don't. But it was absolutely hilarious. And I tell you what, it took all I had not to crack up laughing at her. I guess it was because part of me was like envisioning me in this chair for forever. So, so yeah, that was one of the funny things that happened while I was in rehab. And all my nurses, I had this nurse at night. She smoked like I did, and I guess that nobody knew I smoked. Like I was in the hospital for over a month, and nobody realized I smoked because I can't use those patches and stuff because the adhesive, even on a regular Band-Aid, hurts me. And because when I was getting discharged, nurses came over. She's like, "Oh, this is stuff about smoking. You don't smoke." I said, "Yes, I do." She's like, "What? Wait, you don't have a? What's going on? What do you mean you don't? You smoke?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "This whole time you don't have a patch or anything?" I was like, "No." But I did have my e-cigarette hidden in my tray, which my night nurse, the one that smokes, she's the one that's like, "Put it in here so nobody sees it." You know what I mean? And she'd go out, smoke cigarette, come back in, and I'd be like, because it's, and she'd say, "You on beat." I'd say, "Take a load off." And she'd sit down and we'd talk and stuff. She was so funny. And then I had this one nurse at night. And they were all real nice to Meryl because he would spend nights with me most of the time. And I had one nurse. She was always really, I mean, she was so efficient, very efficient, and very, very nice. Would do anything for you. And she would bring Meryl a cup of coffee in the morning, which she didn't have to because he could go down and get his own. But she was just a nice lady. And and so one night I had this nurse, and she was, she was okay throughout the night. Anything I needed. Like I said, I hardly slept. So, she comes in early in the morning. Meryl woke up, and he had a cramp in his leg. And he's like, ah, and I was like, "Charlie, where's?" She's like, "Yeah, And she looks at him and says, because I was in the morning, she'd bring him coffee too, which was whatever. But she says to him, "You want me to rub that out for you?" I was like, "Excuse me? Rub that out for him?" First and foremost, I'm the patient, okay? First and foremost. Second of all, I don't think so. Yeah, you know what? I just stay the hell away from my fiance. "Will he rub that out for you?" I'm like, what is this, a Swedish massage parlor, or is it, rehab? Couldn't believe it. And I was talking to one nurse. I said, "You know that nurse?" I can't remember her name. And she's like, "Yeah." And I told her what happened. She's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm surprised. She's usually really quiet and whatever." I was like, "I don't know." I said, I said, "You better not ever try that again." But I didn't really see her, I guess, after that. I don't think. And, but then that was like the running joke. My nurses would come and look at me and say, "You want me to rub your back for you?" Or something like that. It was always funny. Like I said, they were a lot of fun in rehab. And, so yeah, it was good. I had really low potassium level while I was in the hospital. And, I took potassium all the time, which is highly disgusting. And I think I was very brave that I would manage to get it down. And So right before I'm supposed to be released from the hospital, I watched the fireworks from the hospital, from my hospital room, which was a good view. It really was. And real quick, because I gotta go because my time's running out. But I couldn't leave. My potassium level was too high. I'm like, oh my gosh, figures, you know. So I had to wait an extra day for my potassium level to go down. But I don't think there's any other, like, funny haha stories in rehab. Some horrible ones, and I'll tell you about those in my next video, which will be coming in a few minutes because I'm so bored tonight. I don't know why. And I'm sick of watching YouTube videos and whatever. And because my dumb ass won't put a TV in the bedroom, because bedroom's where you sleep and relax, not watch TV. Now I could shoot myself for it because I can't watch TV. So I hope you like this. Any questions again, just ask. Open book. See you guys. Bye.